It's the amazing Rico Brogna podcast with your host, Evan Roberts.
That was a satisfying victory over the Chicago Cubs on a Friday night on a crisp, rainy, wet evening in Queens. The New York Mets defeat the Chicago Cubs. Welcome to episode 478 of Rico Brogna. We'll talk about this game. We'll read some of your emails at thericob@gmail.com. But I have to start with Clay Holmes because we've watched this guy now make 8 starts in this little science experiment the New York Mets are making. Remember, they signed Clay Holmes. He's a reliever. What the hell are they doing? Can the pitching lab really turn Clay Holmes into a quality starting pitcher? And I was impressed from the beginning, but we needed to see consistency, and we needed to see him go deeper into games. And what we have now seen in 3 of his last 4 starts is Clay Holmes complete 6 innings, which in 2025, a 6-inning start means you're a real starting pitcher. Like, let's call it like it is. You know, we could all want him to go 8 innings or want him to go 7 2/3 innings, but in Major League Baseball, in 2025, if you go 6 innings, you're a real, breathing, living starting pitcher. And what I think we have to admit against an offense like this, and that's why this is the day in which I can say this loudly and I can say this proudly. Clay Holmes is a real starting pitcher, and Clay Holmes is a good starting pitcher. And if you're not ready to say it yet, because it's still only 8 starts, okay, my counter will be, when are you ready to say it? Because if anything, this conversion was going to start off slow. And then maybe as he got used to it, we would sit here in the middle of July or the middle of August and say, okay, it's all coming together. Well, here he is 8 starts into his new career as a starting pitcher. And if you want to argue that, well, the Marlins stink and the Twins aren't any good, and even though the Cardinals are hot lately, they're not any good, and the Nationals aren't any good, the Chicago Cubs came into this game that the Mets played on Friday night, averaging nearly 6 runs a game, 5.87 runs per game. And Clay Holmes, while not perfect, was able to navigate this lineup. He was able to navigate it over 6 strong innings. He allowed just 1 run. He gave up the 1 home run to Kyle Tucker, which when he gave up the home run, I wasn't even mad because at that point, the Mets offense had built him a 5-0 lead. So I'd rather watch him give up a solo home run than walk the 9th place hitter like he did in the 3rd inning with 2 outs and nobody on when he walked Nicky Lopez. But Clay Holmes gives you what I think I'm going to argue is his most impressive start. And the reason I think it's his most impressive start is because of the lineup he was going up against and also the way he finished this game. He finished strong. He was at 83 pitches after 5 innings, and he was about to go through the batting order a 3rd time around and face Kyle Tucker, who he had given up a home run to 2 innings earlier, and face Michael Busch, who he had given up a double to 2 innings earlier. And Carlos Mendoza allowed him to start the 6th inning, which I was on board for. I know lately I become Captain Hook with how quick I want to pull my starting pitchers, but I was definitely willing to let Clay Holmes begin the 6th inning, challenge him a little bit. See if he can get through this. It wasn't that the pitch count was that incredibly high, but at that point he had not pitched a 1, 2, 3 inning since the 1st inning, and you're going through a heart of the batting order that had some pretty good at-bats against him 2 innings earlier. So I thought that was a challenge for Clay Holmes, and Carlos Mendoza allows him to start the 6th inning. He strikes out Kyle Tucker, I think, on a sinker. He got ahead of Saya Suzuki, who lined out to Acuna, and then puts the exclamation point on this start by striking out Michael Busch. So he goes 1, 2, 3 against the heart of the order. He ends up throwing, I think it was 95 pitches, but let me get the exact number. It was somewhere in the mid-90s. The exact number was 93. So he ends up throwing 93 pitches, which I think is just about the most pitches he has thrown as a starting pitcher. They have not let him yet get to that 100 area. In fact, looking back at his starts, let's see. He threw 92 in his last start, so pretty much the same, just a shade above it. He threw 70 in the start before that. That was the rain game where the rain affected his performance, even though he pitched pretty well. I guess affected how long he was able to go in that game. 91, 90, 87, 85, and 89. So basically, not that he blew it away, but he touches his career high in pitches, and he gives this team another really solid performance. And I've been on this Holmes train from the beginning of this season, and at least believing he can make this conversion. Pete is not. And so, Pete, I ask you, is 8 starts enough? Is this the start on a Friday night at Citi Field against the Cub offense that is scoring a ton of runs, best offense in baseball statistically? Is this the moment where you can say into a Rico Brogna microphone, you know what? Clay Holmes may be a damn good starting pitcher.
Yeah, I think the most impressive thing is because it was against the Cubs. I do believe that. I think that if we were still talking about the Marlins or somebody else, I can't give him as much credit. But the fact that, like, I know he let Kyle Tucker hit a home run, but he's a really good hitter. I mean, that's his blemish. That's it.
That's it.
I mean, yeah, you have to tip the cap to him and say, you know what? Clay Holmes is who the Mets thought he was. He's a starting pitcher.
It's damn impressive. And when you look at this rotation, and obviously it's not at full strength yet. You know, Frankie Montas could be back, even though Frankie Montas, we've barely known you. He hasn't made a start as a Met. And obviously Sean Manaea, who you barely hear about. But when you look through this rotation, Peterson, McGill, Canning, and Senga, Senga is on another level. Even though he doesn't go deep into games consistently. And yes, the Mets handle him with a great amount of care. But I feel Clay Holmes is that guy I look at and say he's got the highest upside this side of Kodai Senga. More so than McGill, more so than Canning, and even more so than David Peterson. And I'm not sure I would have said that a month ago. I don't think I would have said that in spring training, but just watching him and watching how well he's pitched through these 8 starts and watching how his stuff has translated as a starting pitcher and watching the way he's been able to go 6 innings in starts and actually make that a consistent thing. I mean, his first 2 starts, he couldn't get through the 5th inning. And that was the kind of the question for him. Like, all right, can you go deeper into games? Since the first 2 starts when he went 4 2/3 innings and 4 2/3 innings, listen to his performances. 5 1/3, 5, 6, 5, 6, and 6 again. So he has been pretty damn consistent as a 6-inning, 1 or 2 run performer. And so I have a lot of hope now looking at Clay Holmes moving forward that not that he's the ace. I think that word can be overused sometimes, but he's one of those starting pitchers who I think has one of the highest upsides on this team.
Well, I think that Mendoza and crew are all basically trying to figure out how many innings can they get out of their starters before they implode. And if you're telling me that Holmes is consistently getting between 5 to 6, and now it's been mostly 6, I mean, that to me puts him at the top of the list. I mean, again, we talked about Senga, that's fine, but puts him at the top of the list as far as most reliable pitchers. And here's the other thing, too, that we haven't really discussed. I mean, the past few years, he has pitched with the Yankees. He has pitched in the playoffs. So right now, this is the regular season Clay Holmes. He's also had that playoff experience. So if you want to talk about the most reliable pitcher, I mean, he may be it because he's seen every situation. He's been in a high leverage situation. So, I mean,
here's the real test. Here's the real test for you, Hoff. Here's the real test. The state of the Met bullpen is average right now. You know, a few of the guys that got off to great starts have kind of been eliminated from the circle of trust. They've dealt with injuries. Obviously, the AJ Minter stuff is terrible. He met the media on Friday, and he's not even going to be ready for the start of next year. Like, it's that serious of an injury. And he does have an opt-in clause where he could opt in at $11 million, and I assume he will. I assume AJ Minter is going to be on the Mets next year, and they're going to rehab him, and hopefully he can contribute at some point in 2026. But I wasn't going to get into that too much now. More so, the bullpen has holes. The bullpen has weaknesses. And when we sat here in spring training and we sat here during the offseason, we talked about, well, if the bullpen needs help, they could always move Clay Holmes to the bullpen. Wouldn't you agree that at least so far, we're 8 starts in and a lot can change? through 8 starts, you would be nuts to move this guy to the bullpen. Like that is not, as much as they may need him at some point, it's not an option if he's going to pitch like this.
No, he's not the first option. There's other guys I'd go to. Holmes has to be where he is right now because he's reliable. And he's helping to prevent going to those guys in the bullpen. Like we saw today, like no offense, what are the bigger blemishes? It's Buto and Nunez today. I mean, Dendell didn't allow a run at all, but again, a lot of traffic. You know that he's waiting to just blow up any second. And Jose Buto has not been perfect yet since he's come back. Those are the two guys that in the bullpen, you're sitting there going like, are they who we thought they were?
Yes. Yeah. Bullpen has questions, but Clay Holmes ain't going to be the answer. Right. Clay Holmes is a rotation member. And yes, this was his most impressive start. I will take my L on this. I was on the air doing the show with Tiki Barber on Friday. The Met lineup comes out. And I'm at first concerned when I first saw the lineup for this Friday game against the Chicago Cubs. I was concerned because I didn't see the name Mark Vientos. And to me, when I think about the fact that he didn't play on Wednesday, when I think about the fact that they had an off day Thursday, when I think about the fact that if you go through Mark Vientos' last 5 or 6 days, not that he's hitting the cover off the ball, but he's not 0 for 15. He's not slumping horribly. Gary Cohen said on the broadcast, Vientos has been slumping. I mean, is he? I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. So him not being in the lineup concerned me. Then I hear Carlos Mendoza explain, well, he's fine. I wanted to get lefties in there. I really wanted to get Jeff McNeil in the lineup. I wanted to get Brett Baty in the lineup. And I hated it. I did. And I'll tell you who I didn't want to see in the lineup. It wasn't even Brett Baty. You know, Brett Baty went out there and hit a home run. So when he hits the home run in the second inning, I wasn't eating the crow yet. It was Jeff McNeil. And not that Jeff McNeil can never play. I'm certainly not suggesting that. But Vientos, to me, needed to be in the lineup. He hadn't played in multiple days. I want his bat in the lineup. I don't want him being buried unless there's some kind of penalization that we don't know about. And so when I saw this lineup, I didn't love it. I did not. What would have I done differently? I just wouldn't have played Jeff McNeil today. Doesn't mean I wasn't going to play him forever, but I wouldn't have played him today. And Jeff McNeil hits a home run. So Carlos Mendoza, who put a lineup together that, let's be honest, I go through the Rico B emails. Most people didn't like it either. The guys he ends up playing are the guys that perform. Lance wrote an email in response to what I was saying on Evan and Tiki and what I just said again about what I would have done with this lineup, especially with Mark Vientos sitting. And Lance wrote, Evan, I was listening to you and Tiki on the way home from work and heard you say Mendy was pissing you off with these lineups lately, not playing Vientos. My first reaction was completely agreeing with you, but then I thought maybe he's trying to spark Vientos by sitting him for McNeil and Baty. Kind of the same way being sent down to AAA last year sparked him. Maybe he needs a challenge. I still don't like the move, but now after the first few innings, Mendy looks like a genius with them both homering in their first at-bat. I wish I would have taken the parlay. I should have done that too. As soon as I'm sitting there on the radio criticizing who's playing over Mark Vientos, that was the moment to say, you know what? Let's parlay a Jeff McNeil, Brett Baty home run combo, which they did in the second inning. Look, I don't know. I'm looking back at my scorecard to remind myself. Vientos in game 2 against Arizona went 1 for 4. One of the outs was a screaming line drive. The day before that, he went 1 for 4. A line out, a 12-pitch fly out, but he did have a base hit with a 2-strike count. Before that, he was on base 3 times in the finale against the Cardinals in the last game of the doubleheader, 2 singles and a walk. So and he didn't play the first game of the doubleheader. So I'm looking back and I don't see a guy who's lost. I don't feel a guy who's lost. Now he'll be in the lineup on Saturday. He'll definitely be in the lineup on Sunday when they're facing a lefty. So I know it's not permanent. But like I always say, when we talk about first guesses and second guesses, even if they don't work out or even if they do work out, to me, it's still worthy of talking about because we go through what we were thinking. But to the credit of Carlos Mendoza, as much as I was pissed off at 5:15, Obviously, it did all work out. Brett Baty hitting the home run in the second, and Jeff McNeil first pitch rip in the second inning as well, hitting the 2 home runs and helping the Met offense get off to a good start.
I know it's a short sample size this year. I have to look at his career numbers, but you did see the splits between lefty and righty, right?
Yeah.
With Tyone coming in.
Yeah.
Like versus righties, his ERA was 6.19. He hadn't allowed a home run versus a lefty at all. So the fact is that I think –
and look what happens. All home runs come off the bat of left-hand hitters.
Seriously. But on the other hand, I look at it going, who better to understand who's on the mound than Carlos Mendoza, because he's worked with him in the past. He understands Jameson Tyone, so maybe there was something that he knew that he was able to pass that message along that, hey, this is his, Achilles heel, and go attack it. So that's something about Carlos Mendoza that I truly believe makes him a step above. He seems so intelligent, so on top of everything that you do have to trust his lineup at all times.
Well, I'll trust him, but I'll still criticize if I disagree. And if I'm wrong, like we're doing right now, I'll say I was wrong. Didn't work out. Or it did work out. Like for us as Met fans, it worked out because every single person that was on the fence in terms of who should play ended up performing. And this is a good problem to have. Like this is a very, very good problem right now the Mets are having because Jeff McNeil is hitting. He's starting to hit a little bit. Brett Baty hit a couple of hits in this game. Even the infield hit he had in the third inning was like perfectly placed with 2 men on base. But obviously he hits that bomb of a home run to left center field behind in the count. So Baty is giving you a little bit. Obviously Luis Angel Acuna, who stole a base, had a big infield hit. And even that fielder's choice, that big play in the third inning where Dansby Swanson made the bad throw, I think he rushes it because of Acuna's speed. So I think Acuna, his speed impacts a play like that. It's not like there's a stat to show it, but watching it, yeah, I think Dansby Swanson knew I have to rush it. Acuna's running. So the point is you have a lot of guys hitting. And Tyrone Taylor, I don't want to forget him. He had a quieter day, but he's been red hot, or at least was red hot on the road trip that they were just on. So this is a good problem to have. And I think that Mendy's got a lot of different options. Unfortunately, the guy who may lose time is Starling Marte. I think he'll get his starts against left-handed pitchers, and they will face a lefty on Sunday in Matthew Boyd. But there's a lot of maneuvering going on right now, even without Jesse Winker at DH. He's got a lot of options. And the Jeff McNeil DH option makes a lot of sense because Luis Angel Acuna should play every day. I think we're all on that page. He gets on base, he immediately steals second. That's another cool thing about him. Like he is such a real threat when he gets on base, and his defense has been nearly flawless. But it was good to see from this Met offense, not just going out and scoring 7 runs on 13 hits, not only the fact that 12 of the hits came with 2 strikes, which is nuts. That is freaking nuts. And it feels, I wanted to look at the stats to see if my feels match the numbers, but it feels like the Mets have had a lot of hits with 2 strikes and a lot of, especially Pete, home runs with 2 strikes. I ended up looking it up, and they're pretty good. They're towards the top. They're not the top team, but batting average with 2 strikes, home runs with 2 strikes, they're a top 5, top 7 offense, pretty much what their offense actually is. But the tone was set very early because Lindor's behind in the count 0-2 to Tyone, and then he absolutely tattoos one over the right field fence. Another leadoff home run from Francisco Lindor, another first inning production from Francisco Lindor. He has been tremendous. Here we are. We're in the middle of May now. And other than the first, week and a half or 2 weeks where he really struggled, we didn't get that early season issue from Francisco Lindor. So if he can continue this, not that he's going to win an MVP or he's going to finish in the top 2 or 3, but a nice, full, consistent season from Francisco Lindor may be on the way. But you get that home run from Lindor. We mentioned the 2 home runs in the second inning from Baty and McNeil. Baty's came on a 1-2 pitch. And then that third inning with Nimmo drawing a walk, Alvarez getting the infield hit, Baty getting the infield hit, and Acuna's speed literally creating 2 runs. Because Acuna hits that ball with the bases loaded. And off the bat, especially where Swanson fielded it, it did feel like, wow, they're going to be able to turn 2 on Acuna. but you could tell Swanson was rushing a little bit, knowing that Acuna was running. The throw is wild. Not only does the one-run score on not being able to turn the double play, but then the throw is so wild, Alvarez scores. Then Soto. How can we forget a Juan Soto home run? And that was a good home run to see because that was a no doubt about it. The Soto home run in the fourth inning that went to the far right side of the Shea Bridge. You know why that was cathartic? Even though at that point, the Mets had already opened up a 5-1 lead. The reason that home run was cathartic is it felt like Soto hit so many of those home runs against us with Washington. The Soto Bridge was not even the Shea Bridge. It felt like Juan Soto hit, and maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe my brain is misremembering the reality of it, but it felt like Soto tortured us in D.C. by hitting one off the Shea Bridge. So for him to finally do it for us on our team was very good to see. And even though the offense didn't do much after that, they went out and scored often. They scored early. They built Clay Holmes a lead. And then obviously the Mets were able to hold on and win this game 7-2. Hoff, you mentioned the bullpen. So Ryan Stanek had a good inning. That's good to see. I still don't trust him as far as I can throw. I think he's going to have to earn that back. But good inning out of Ryan Stanek. The Dednell Nunez thing, I don't know what's off about him because this was going on at AAA too, where his command is just inconsistent. Like it is going to take Dednell Nunez a little bit of time before he can earn back our trust and certainly earn back the Mendy trust of being a high leverage arm. But I thought Mendy used him in a great spot. It was another one of those situations where you got a big lead. At that point, it was 6-1. So sort of similar to the Arizona game. I think it was 5-1 in the Arizona game, if memory serves correct. This one was 6-1. He gets the first strikeout against Swanson. Look good, look nasty. Walking Nicky Lopez on 4 pitches. That can't happen. The fact that Nicky Lopez drew 2 walks in this game as the 9th place hitter in this kind of lineup, like that's a sin. Clay Holmes committed the sin. Dednell Nunez committed the sin. And after he walks in at half, that Kyle Tucker at bat was the battle, and he's certainly not helped out by Francisco Alvarez dropping the pop-up. So give Nunez a little bit of points, if you will, for striking out Tucker and not, leaving Reed Garrett with the same kind of mess. He would have left him with a bases-loaded 1-out mess as opposed to a bases-loaded nobody-out mess like he did in Arizona. So mixed bag from Dednell Nunez. I think Nunez just is going to have to continue to pitch in these lower leverage situations until he can earn that trust back. And kind of the same thing with Buteau. Like right now, when you look at this bullpen, Hennessy's Cabrera, Jose Buteau, Dednell Nunez, Ryan Stanek. 4 of the 8 guys are innings eaters when the games aren't close. Obviously, Reed Garrett, Edwin Diaz, Huascar Brazaban, and I'd even include Max Kranick. Kranick's kind of on the fringes of that. But as of right now, because this changes a lot, folks, it's May 9th, May 10th, May 11th. This could be very different by May 20th. That right now is your circle of trust. Now, we got to address the Lindor stuff because, look, Francisco Lindor could do whatever he wants with his theme song. He can do whatever he wants. But changing it, or at least flipping between My Girl and Ain't No Mountain High Enough, I don't know, you're confusing the Met fan. The Met fan has already been trained like a good lapdog to sing My Girl, My Girl. And even I sing it. I got to tell you, and I'm no singer. And I'm usually not crazy at a Met game. But when I'm at Citi Field and Francisco Lindor is coming up, I got to admit, I start singing My Girl. And now we got Ain't No Mountain High Enough. I don't know what to think about this. Francisco really mixing it up a little bit. And I think it's going to take a while before the crowd says, all right, you know what? We're going to sing Ain't No Mountain High Enough. The good part about it is he picked another older song that everybody knows. So from that standpoint, it's a good one. But I don't know. Rizzy the God, listening live to our Rico Brogna on YouTube, responds to what I was talking about with Clay Holmes by saying, Evan, at the beginning of this, Rico, you said you would have more of an expectation for Clay to have had a slow start to the year and then warm up. And then since Clay is having a good start, that means that we can call him definitely a good starter. Personally, I have more concern for Clay on the second half of the season, where I'm sure he will approach his innings record. I'm curious to see how he can maintain for the entire season before I definitely call him a good starter. Now, for the record, I do have a bet for Clay Holmes Cy Young, and I have him on my fantasy team, so I do believe in him, but still need to see more. So, Rizzy, the innings situation is absolutely fair because he is going to be throwing an amount of innings he's not used to. And the way teams handle it now, they don't have innings limits. Like, that's kind of a thing of 10 years ago. They more look at the biomechanics. They look at the arm angle. They look at if things are changing that they would be concerned about, that they think is changing because of the fact that he's thrown so many innings. Can he wear down late in the year? Is that something that, we'll be talking about come August and September? Sure, because he's entering uncharted territories. But when I mean that I thought it would be an adjustment because all of a sudden you're asking a guy who hadn't done it in a long time to get into the routine of being a starting pitcher, of pitching every 5 or 6 days, of going deeper into games, of facing the same guys multiple times, which he did not do as a short reliever. So when I say I expected his struggles to be early, it wasn't about being worn down, because that's a different factor, and it's certainly a fair one to bring up when we get there. But it was more the overall adjustment that he was going to have to do. Tyler writes, Clay Holmes' transition to starter has been a resounding success. While it's only been 8 starts, still very early, Clay Holmes' transition to starter has been nothing short of spectacular. 2.74 ERA, 2.61 FIP, 42.2 innings. Again, small sample, but I'm confident every time he takes the ball. And on this contract, what a steal this could end up being. With the success of Clay Holmes and Griffin freaking Canning, and after Manaea and Severino's successes of last year, do we just have to trust the Mets pitching-wise on whatever they decide to do in future off seasons? Tyler, it's a funny question, and it's a great question because the answer is probably yes. As much as we'll all have opinions on I like this guy, I don't like this guy, I want them to trade for this guy, I want them to sign this guy, at the end of the day, whatever they do, we are going to have to say, well, they're the pitching lab, man. And look at all these miracle stories. Obviously, there is still a long way to go, but Griffin Canning and Clay Holmes are great examples of it. And that's why Frankie Montas, who I know a lot of us weren't ecstatic about, how are we not intrigued by what they can get out of him? Like, if anybody's going to get the best of Frankie Montas, why wouldn't it be the Mets at this point? I'll tell you something else to keep an eye on. You know, at the beginning of this season, we talked about some of the young arms, and we saw Blade Tidwell last week in St. Louis. We may well see Brandon Sproat at some point. How about this Nolan McLean, who got the call up to AAA and goes out and throws 7 scoreless innings on 70 pitches? There is a chance, based on the high rise of McLean, that he may be the next guy we see. That we may actually see McLean before Sproat or before Tidwell again. That is certainly possible, and it's certainly keeping an eye on. That's for sure. Let me get to some more of your emails because we try to be very, very interactive. We try to listen to what the people have to say and see what's on your mind. So would you like to hear from somebody, Hoff, that is upset with the Rico I'm the man now star of the week?
Yeah.
Star of the series, of the previous series?
Yeah, what's the issue? There should be no issue. It's
well,
perfect.
We ended up picking Juan Soto. And Juan Soto, of course, hit the 2 home runs. So he performed very, very well. But let me find the email because I would like to read what the guy wrote as opposed to me just saying it, though I could just say it. All right, here it is. Clayton Caldwell writes, Evan, you totally botched the Rico I'm the man now star of the series for the Arizona series. I'm going to go as far to say it's as bad as Rafael Palmeiro winning a Gold Glove in 1999 for playing 28 games at first base. LOL. Well, that's insulting. I mean, you can't say Juan Soto hitting 2 home runs and helping the Mets win a game and getting on base a million times is the same as Rafael Palmeiro not playing first base but winning a Gold Glove there. But anyhow, Clayton writes, there is one clear and definite answer for the Rico I'm the man now star of the series in the Arizona series. And that answer is Francisco Lindor. Not only did he have a home run on Monday, which ended up being the difference, by the way, but his double on Wednesday was key. It helped break the game open and help keep Edwin Diaz fresh for a tough Chicago series that is coming up this weekend. Oh, and I didn't mention his stellar defense all series. You mentioned the throw by Alvarez to nail Thomas in the ninth, but how about the tag? I think one shortstop in baseball makes that tag, and his name is Francisco Lindor. In addition, he made another great play on Wednesday, and you mentioned the play, but didn't give Francisco enough credit. How about the throw home to nail that son of a bitch Suarez at the plate? It was a perfect one-hop throw to the glove side, and basically all Torrens had to do was catch it. Keeps the game 0-0 and helps Senga get out of the inning he was laboring in. Defense wins games. I get Soto had a good series, but the star of the series was Francisco Lindor. To put him in the honorable mention category is a major oversight. Lindor was the I'm the man now star of the series. You don't get a better defensive display than Lindor had, and his hits were clutch. How was Soto's defense? Nowhere near as great as Lindor. He was robbed. I politely use a challenge to have New York review the call. Though with today's umpires, they'll still get it wrong. If I'm keeping score of the star of the series for this series, I'm putting a question down in my scorecard like you did for the Vientos error double. Arizona star of the series, Soto, question mark, parentheses, Lindor.
I mean, listen, can I just go to one thing, because you're right, Lindor has been fantastic defensively and whatnot. Did you notice today we talked about one guy, a guy formerly who won 2 Gold Gloves and stole them from Lindor, Dansby Swanson. That's the guy. That throw in that inning where he just threw the ball away and couldn't turn a double play. I'm sitting there going like, that's the guy that stole the Gold Glove away from. I mean, come on, dude. Lindor is so much better than Dansby Swanson.
Francisco Lindor is now beloved by Met fans. Right? Took a while, took a couple of years, but he is just universally beloved by Met fans. But he's been screwed for years on certain honors. Like the fact he hasn't been an all-star as a New York Met is mind-boggling. So I've just gotten used to it. And by the way, that argument that Clayton made about Lindor is very valid. I stand by Soto being the Rico I'm the man now star of the series. I think the home run of a 0-0 game in a pivotal rubber matchup was damn important. I think Soto's second home run was damn important. He was also on base a million times in the series. I think it was close, and I think that Clayton made a very good case for Lindor, but I'm sorry. I reject your appeal. And I'll tell you why I reject your appeal, Clayton. We get emails all the time about the Rico star of the series. In fact, like 5 minutes before your email was received, I'm going to read this email from Josh. Josh writes, let's not be so eager to give Juan Soto the award. To me, the clear star of the series is Kodai Senga. 6 scoreless innings in a game they needed to keep the season series even. I feel like he should have run away with it. So here's my point. It's a split view. If Hoff received 15 emails that said you screwed up with Lindor, I would have given it more review. But you were the only one bitching about it. So while it's a good argument and he deserves a lot of credit, the appeal has been heard and we've said thank you. He just finished a little bit short.
Can I ask you a quite honest question? Did you get anything about the net negative?
A lot of net negative emails.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm not even kidding you. A lot.
Complaining about the net negative?
So I got so many. I'm going to give you 2 examples of the net negative email because the net negative award that we're handing out is very controversial. So this one comes from Lucas. Lucas writes, what's up, guys? Love the pod. Just a suggestion for the new net negative award. Since you have a new name for the Star of the Series award, I figured I'd suggest a name for the award celebrating the crappiest men of the series. Why not the net negative Jorge Lopez Worst Effing Teammate Award? So we're getting suggestions on the name of it. Like, what should it be named? But the other thing that we received is, I can't find this one, but there was a guy who doesn't want there to be a net negative award, saying we are in first place. What are we doing? Like, why should we talk about the negative when as of right now we're a first place team? But the problem is that's today. Like, there are going to be series that we lose. In fact, there's already been plenty of series that we lose even in a season that's going well. So that, and here's another one. John Rosenstein writes, net negative player of the series name change. Big fan of the show for some time, but this is my first time writing you. So clearly the net negative is getting people to write when they never write. With changing the name of the player of the series to the I'm the man right now player of the series, it feels right if the net negative player of the series also gets a name upgrade. How do you like the Luis Castillo player who dropped the ball of the series instead?
That's great.
So yes, a lot of people have very strong opinions about the net negative award. I think it is fun to do because much like the star of the series, we may get swept in a series. We're still going to pick a star. So the star of the series and the net negative aren't necessarily indicative of what the results were. But either way, good start to this series against a good team in Chicago. I know one of the talks have been, hey, how are the Mets going to fare against better competition? Well, let's see how they've done. They just won 2 out of 3 in Arizona against the Diamondbacks, and they've just taken the opener in this 3-game series against the Chicago Cubs. Make sure you download the Rico Brogna and you subscribe because, like this episode, 478, sometimes they pop out of nowhere. Sometimes we do Ricos when you least expect it. But when you can expect Ricos are after each series concludes. So on Sunday, they're playing an early afternoon game at Citi Field against the Chicago Cubs. At some point on Sunday, you will get a Rico Brogna live on YouTube or right there wherever you download your podcast. So stay tuned. Nice victory. Good to see the Phillies and Braves lose. And so our lead in the NL East extended just a bit. Thank you very much for listening, downloading, and subscribing. Another brand new edition of Rico Brogna.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rico Brogna podcast. It's amazing, isn't it? Make sure you download it now to keep it on you at all times.